My name is Anthony Cobb. I am the Chief of Police here in the city of Champaign. We're always happy when we get a room full of citizens who want to come and talk with us about the future of our police department. I apologize that we're warm in this room. We expect it to be a lot cooler than what it is. The air conditioning is on. They cranked it down to 65, so I'm hoping it gets cool in here sometime soon before we leave out of here. But at any point, there's refreshments up here. Help yourself to refreshments. We're going to go through a quick presentation here, probably about 25-30 minutes. That's what we're trying to keep it to, and then we're going to get to some questions, and we'll have some dialogue about what's going on. But the purpose of these community forums, let me start off by saying is that we wanted to get out and talk to our citizens about the future of our police department, where we're going, looking into the future. People are going to be helping me with this conversation today. I have Deputy Chief Joe Gallo here. He's in charge of our patrol division. And then I have Deputy Chief Troy Daniels here, and he's in charge of the support service division. Got Lieutenant John Swenson sitting in the back there. He's with our admin lieutenant, as well as Laisha Metters. She's assistant to the Chief of Police for community outreach. She's back there. She's going to be our scribe today. And then I also want to introduce Mr. Parsons here, Tracy Parsons. He agreed to work with us and be our moderator today. When we get to the question and answer period, he's going to help us pick people out, make sure we get everyone's question answered. One thing I'm going to ask is that, hey, we're going to try to get this done by 8:30, but we'll stay as long as necessary. We'll stay until everyone gets their question answered. If they kick us out of the building, we're going to stand outside. It's a beautiful night, so we want to make sure we answer your questions.
We're not going to stand outdoors.
Okay, so with that said.
We don't do outdoors.
We don't do outdoors? Okay. We'll work something else out there, but we'll get the questions answered. But it's been about 10 years since the Champaign Police Department came out and held a dialogue like this where we're talking about the future of the department, and we felt it was time to do so again. Thank you. As we're moving into fostering into the 21st century, these are the things we're looking to accomplish by having this dialogue. Clear and diligent about our purpose. We want to be thoughtful and transparent. We recognize some of the issues that we're dealing with. We are going to need help from our public. We are here to serve our public, and we need to collaborate with you. We need to partner with you, and we need to work together to solve issues within our community, and that's citywide. We want to be innovative and open to change. But in order for us to change, we need to hear what that change is. What do you all want from us? And we can talk about something we would like to get from our citizens as well, and how we can help each other. Greatly eager, we want to be greatly engaged with our community. Engagement is a big word you're going to hear us talking a lot about. One of our biggest goals this year is how we take outreach to engagement. Outreach is when we just show up, we unpack the table, and we're here, and we put this program on, and then we pack up and we leave. Engagement, when we put some roots down. We unpack our bags, we're here to stay, we want to be committed, and we want to be engaged. We want all our employees to develop meaningful, trusting relationships with citizens, all citizens, providing quality service to reach into the future. Next slide. Here's what we're looking to accomplish today. We got a little bit technical difficulty, but the agenda that we have up is we're going to talk about how did the strategic plan come about? How did we develop it? We're going to review the initiatives within that plan, and then we're going to open the floor to community dialogue. And then last, we're going to talk about next steps. What happens after we get done with the dialogue? Things that I want you to know. One, meeting session is being recorded. There's cameras going on. I think someone else brought a mic up here for us to look to. The media's in here, but we're recording it for prosperity's sake. But two, we are asking everyone to hold your questions to the end. So if you can just note them down, we will get to every question, but we want to get through the presentation first. And we do have a large group, so we actually said we'd be respectful of time. If you can limit your questions to a minute and a half, right in that neighborhood somewhere, so we get to everyone's question, get everyone a chance to dialogue. I guarantee if you have a burning question, we will get it answered before you leave here today. A couple things, those who are into social media, there's a couple of hashtags you can use here. Hashtag CPD-CM, which is Champaign Police Department Community Meeting. Champaign Police Department CPD STIR, which is Champaign Police Department Service through Trust, Integrity, and Respect. And the last, hashtag Unconditional Respect. So if you're talking about this, you want to have conversation through social media, please use the hashtags there so that we are sharing the information so everyone can be part of the dialogue. We want the dialogue to continue beyond this conversation. Next slide. Overview of the strategic plan. Keep going, go ahead. How did it come about? Basically, before I get into the overview, let me give you an overview of the Champaign Police Department. We consist of pretty much two divisions within the department. We have the operational division, which is Deputy Chief Gallows over, which is the patrol aspect. The uniform officers who provide the basic service when someone dials 911, they handle the calls for service. We're broken up into 4 districts, this being the North District. We have a Northwest District, a Southwest District, and a South District. The dividing lines for the district lines is University Avenue. Everything north of University Avenue and east of Prospect is North District. Everything that is west of Prospect but north of University is Northwest District. South District is everything south of University but east of Prospect, and Southwest is everything that is south of University and east of west of Prospect. So that's the breakdown of the city. Deputy Chief Daniels here is responsible for our operational support division, which is our administration, which is our records, front desk personnel, as well as our detectives. He oversees our fiscal, as far as our budgeting and evidence, all that stuff falls under him. Those are the 2 areas of the department that are broken up into. Strategic process. Wearing a ballistic vest is hot. That's all he said. I sweat naturally, but man, this vest got me going. So here we go. We started discussion in June of 2013. And when we started discussion on figuring out what the future of the Champaign Police Department is going to look like, we took a bottom-up approach. We started with our employees. We went to our employees. Initially, we had to hire a third-party consultant to come in and work with us. This consultant, after he sat down and heard what we want to do, decided we're going to take a bottom-up approach, and we went to our employees through small groups. We have briefings, and with the briefings, the way to work in our patrol division, we run 4 shifts. First shift starts at 7 o'clock in the morning, and it goes to 5 o'clock in the evening. Power shift starts at 12 noon, and it goes to 10 o'clock at night. We work 10-hour schedules. Our evening shift starts at 5 p.m., and it goes to 3 a.m. And our night shift starts at 10 p.m., and it goes to 8 a.m. So we have shifts that overlap. And so we went to each of those shifts to start the dialogue and see what did our employees thought we should be about, where they thought we were going as an agency. After talking with all employees, like I said, we went to the patrol, we went to our civilian employees at our front desk, at our records division, as well as to investigations, and talked with the individuals there. Once we got this information, talked with the command staff, the consultant took the information and developed a survey. Once he developed the survey, that survey went out, and that's where we got input from all employees. Once we got all this input from the employees, we took this information and we took it to a core committee. A core committee consisted of 20 people, 10 of which were from outside the agency. We had a council member on it. We had citizens on it. We had someone from another city department on it. We had officer spouses on it, as well as retirees on it. And then we had some employees representing different fractions within the department on the other half of it. This core committee went through all this data, and that's how we came up with the mission and guiding principle for the Champaign Police Department. Once we got that information together and got all this raw data from this core committee, we took all that stuff to our community coalition. That consists of individuals, it consists of agencies, it consists of other government partners, and we presented all this raw data to them and got their feedback, getting community feedback on where we thought the department was going. Once we got all this information together, we said, now it's time to take it on the road. Recognize that this is our information, we're coming out to you, and we're seeking your input. So we said we're going to have 5 community dialogue to take it out to all citizens who want to have dialogue and input in it, and let them have an opportunity to look at the finished product as we thought it was, when I should say completely finished, because it's not finished until we get your input. And so we want to bring this to you and talk with you about it. So that's how we got there. And we're at what it took. Employee input, communication technology, staff resources, and one of the big things we try to build is internal and external trust. How do we get there? How do we move everything towards engagement, taking outreach to engagement? And when we talked about that, the next thing we came up with is the mission of the Champaign Police Department, which is, the mission of the Champaign Police Department is to serve our public through unwavering protection of all citizens through unconditional respect and collaboration efforts with our community. So we're talking about unwavering protection for all citizens, as well as unconditional respect. collaborative efforts in our communities, talking with our citizens, recognizing that we can't arrest our way out of problems or out of situations, and that we all have to work together. Next slide. How are we going to get there? We're going to get there by using our guiding principles. Our guiding principle: service, trust, integrity, respect. The screen's kind of small, so I'm going to take the time. Jenny don't read what's up there, but I'm going to read it for you. Service is providing the highest quality of service while considering the changing needs of our community. Trust, building trust by working in partnership with the community and working collaboratively within a department. Integrity, performing our roles with the highest level of integrity. Respect, consistently treating everyone we encounter with unconditional respect. If you look at those words there and take the first letter, you get the acronym STIR. The one thing we're talking with our employees about is being a catalyst, a positive catalyst. If you go back to your basic science class when you're in high school and they talk about being a catalyst, stirring is a formal way of being a catalyst. We want our officers to stir change within our community, but we want it to be a positive change. We want our officers to be engaged with our citizens, talking with our citizens, building relationships and trust with our citizens so that we can provide quality service through trust, integrity, respect. Those are the things we're striving with every call, every day. That's where we're moving towards. Next slide, please. When we got done talking about all that stuff, we had a lot of different initiatives and goals when we talked about where we're going as the Champaign Police Department. And we found these building blocks, these 4 areas where those goals will fit into. That's community safety and connections, trust and trust building, employee wellness, training and development, best practices, policy and oversight. But all those building blocks are going to help us to provide the best quality policing in the 21st century, and that's what we're moving towards. With that said, next up is Deputy Chief Gallo.
So we're going to move in towards the goals and initiatives that are outlined in the plan. The first one is to work with the community to keep Champaign a safe place to live and work. We're going to touch on some of the action steps. There's a number of them that are in the plan, but the ones that we're going to talk about tonight.
Yes, speak up, Joe.
Can't hear me? Okay. First one is provide appropriate resources to our community. So the first initiative, work with our community to keep Champaign a safe place to live and work. So we talk about providing appropriate resources to our community. We're talking about internally and externally. Internally, we want to make sure that we're providing, we have the manpower and the officers that can adequately respond to calls for service and protect our community. But externally, we're talking about providing resources to our partners in the community. And 2 that I want to talk about tonight is the Community Coalition. We realize that working together with our community that we are stronger. If we form partnerships with our various organizations in our community, we're stronger. And if we can work work with those organizations on our community problems and to hear from our citizens, we can. So do I need to use the mic? Can you hear me back there?
This mic is a recording mic. I don't think there's audio in here, so you
Okay, I'll pick it up a little bit. If we can work with our community and hear from our community, then we can address their problems. And the Community Coalition has been an excellent avenue for us to share concerns and issues with the community, but also it's been an excellent avenue for us to hear concerns about the community. So that's another organization that we really want to continue our partnership. The other one I want to talk about is the Youth Assessment Center. The Youth Assessment Center has been a valuable partnership with us. We know that we have youth in our community that are struggling. When we come in contact with at-risk youth, we want to make sure that we take them to a place that can help them deal with some of the problems that they're having. Instead of having officers do a station adjustment, we're having to come up with solutions for those youth. We're actually taking them to the Youth Assessment Center where they can be screened and assessed, and we have trained professionals dealing with them and trying to find solutions for their problems. So those are 2 really important partnerships that we want to continue. We look at Initiative 1B, identifying problems and effective solutions with the public using best practices. I want to touch on a few things here. How we deploy our resources at the Champaign Police Department. We look at our data. We use intelligence-led policing. Intelligence-led policing, it's a data-driven approach to allocating your resources. So if we know that we're having certain problems in a certain part of town during certain parts of the day, why have our officers patrolling other parts of the town when we want our resources there? And we'll use we'll use gun violence as, I know that's a topic that we'll be discussing tonight, but if we know our gun violence is happening on a certain time or a certain area of town, that's where we want our officers to patrol, and that's where we want the high visibility. So intelligence-led policing is one key component on how we're going to solve problems and have effective solutions. When we look at our data, I'll ask you, what do you think the #1 call for service or #1 arrest is in the city of Champaign? Everybody want to guess? Some of you have been to this presentation before. Domestic violence, that's right, domestic violence. So when we talk about problem areas and hot spots and problem areas, having the officers respond to that area. So we can take a look at repeat calls for service. Well, domestic violence, we can do the same thing, and we have implemented an enhanced domestic violence protocol where we look at repeat offenders and how do we treat repeat offenders. But not only how do we deal with the repeat offenders, what kind of services and information do we provide to the victims of that domestic violence situation. So that's another area that we want to address. We've been so successful, and Lieutenant Schaefer was responsible for putting this on, but we've been so successful with our enhanced domestic violence protocol that the other agencies in the county have adopted it, so it's being utilized department-wide. And then another area we want to look at to build upon is looking at the partnering with our other law enforcement agencies in the county for the reentry program. We know we have individuals from this community that are returning from the Department of Corrections, and we want to make sure that the proper resources are in place for them to return and be successful. But at the same time, we want to make sure that they're aware that if they're not successful and they reoffend, that they're going to be held accountable. So that's another area that we want to support to develop solutions. Initiative 1C, use data and information to improve service delivery. One thing I'm going to touch upon here, the only one in this area, is so we have a number of law enforcement agencies in the county. There's 5 large agencies. We use a records management system that we call ARMS. And for years, since the mid-90s, Urbana, Champaign, and U of I were sharing one records management system. It's basically where we collect reports, all that information dumps into one. Here recently this year, Rantoul in Champaign County have come on board, so now that we're all together, we're trying to share our information, which will help us be more effective in solving solutions. Initiative 1D, expand methods to provide timely and relevant information to the public. 2 things I want to talk about here. We really want to increase the message that we give to the public, and we control more information. We like working with the media, but we need to do a better job of getting our information out and controlling our message. And we're going to use social media to do that. We're working on a studio in our department where we can actually make videos and make them available on our website. And when I talk about videos, we're talking about crime prevention videos or public safety announcements that we want to get out. Any message that we want to get out, maybe it's a message the chief wants to deliver during the holidays, we'll be able to create those videos in-house and get that out to the public. Another area we want to talk about is sharing crime information. Very important for our citizens to know what's going on in their neighborhood so they can be aware of any problems or concerns that are happening. We want to make sure everybody knows about what's going on in their neighborhood. And one of the things that we have that is available on the internet is crimereports.com. If you go to crimereports.com and you put in Champaign, you'll be able to dial into your neighborhood and you put in your address and you can see any police report that's been filed. So if you want to know about car burglaries, you can see where the car burglaries are at in town. You can even put an area around your residence so it'll alert you via email every time a crime is reported to the Champaign Police Department, a report has been generated. So we want to make sure that you know what's going on in your neighborhood so you can be a better, provide better information if you see something suspicious going on that's related to those crimes. Initiative 1E, educate the community regarding crime prevention. When we talk to the partners that came to the core committee, one of the things that we recognize is we can't do this alone. We need our citizens to help us prevent and solve crimes. So we really need to make sure that there were action steps that we were taking. One of the things we looked at was Crime Stoppers. Crime Stoppers has been a valuable partner for the Champaign Police Department, where citizens can call in or provide anonymous information either over the telephone or through the internet. and we want to really promote the use of Crime Stoppers, because just that little bit of information is all we need to solve some serious crimes. Use the gun violence as an example. Using Crime Stoppers, you know, if we get that tip, it might be just that one little piece of information we need to get an illegal gun off the street that could prevent a shooting. We want to educate our citizens about our outreach activities. We do about 200 outreach activities a year where we're out interacting with the public and explaining different roles and responsibilities that we have within the police department. So we want to continue to do that. And another area I want to talk about is our neighborhood groups. We want to continue having and being partners with our various neighborhood groups within the city. This last year, in November, we have taken our district lieutenants. As the chief mentioned, we have 4 districts in the department. Well, for many years, we had district lieutenants assigned to each of the specific districts, and they were assigned to problems within those districts. Well, this past November, we've taken those district lieutenants and we've made them patrol lieutenants. So they're now responsible for a patrol shift or time of day. So we're still going to continue to partner with the neighborhood groups, but instead of the lieutenants attending the meetings and telling the officers about the problems, we're pushing the meetings down to the sergeants and the officers. And if you think about it, it makes sense. Instead of a lieutenant going to a meeting and then coming back and telling the officers about the problem and what they need to do, we want to have the sergeants and the officers that work in those neighborhoods and are going to be interacting with the citizens. We want them to be a part of the process. We want them to hear firsthand from the neighbors and the citizens what's going on, and we want them to be playing a major role in having those solutions. So we're still going to continue to meet with our neighborhood groups and share information, but we're going to have the line officers and the sergeants play a part of that. Okay, the next area will be covered by Deputy Chief Daniels.
Good evening. Good seeing you guys tonight. Thank you very much for coming out. I'm lucky I get to talk about trust and trust building, because this is one of the building blocks, but this is one of the fundamental building blocks. If you don't have trust, you don't have anything. If you don't have trust, you don't want to give information. You don't want to work together. Think about it, any relationship in your life. Trust is very important. That trust is how we trust each other as far as officers, how the public trusts us, and also how we trust the public. All of those things go into this initiative. I'm only going to touch on some of the most important ones that we think that you'll be interested in tonight. But in Initiative 2A, we talk about increasing and maintaining diversity in the police force. So we want to develop and implement a targeted recruitment plan for lateral officers, so officers who already have experience, and also new hires, people who have no experience. Both kinds of officers is what we're looking for, and here's why. In the next 3 to 5 years, there are going to be at least 31 officers who will reach the time and age to retire. 16 of those officers are command officers, including both deputy chiefs. This place can be a completely different department in the next 3 to 5 years, and we have to prepare to make sure we have the very best officers at the front line. When we talk about that, it is good business to have a police department that is reflective of your community. It's good to have racial diversity, gender diversity, but it's also good for us to have the diversity of talent. When you look at policing today, we use computers and cell phone forensics so much. Some of the things that we're dealing with now with social media, a lot of our older officers, we're not really used to dealing with that. We need to find people on the front line who have those skills. We have to have diversity of those skills to be successful. So 2015, we'll be developing a targeted recruitment plan for that. Our Explorer program. Our Explorer program is a program where we take 14-year-olds to 20-year-olds and we put them in a uniform and we teach them everything there is about police work. We teach them how to do traffic stops, how to interact with people, how to direct traffic. We even get some free work out of it. But we start to develop their leadership skills. And you would be surprised at how many of our best command officers that we have in the building today started off in our Explorer program. It's astounding. And we just started this up this last year, and we're gonna grow the next generation of officers who are tied to our community, that know our community backwards and forwards, to be our future leaders. Initiative 2B is improved communication with all stakeholders. And one thing I want to talk about here is our Walk as One campaign. And this has been a big help to the Community Coalition. So what we do with the Walk as One campaigns, and we're going to continue on, is we partner with churches, leaders, citizens in a certain neighborhood that's going through a challenge or has an issue that they have to deal with. And we put together informational packets, and we come in mass, and we go door to door in a neighborhood, delivering that information, but also listening to the concerns of the people in that neighborhood. So we call those Walk as One campaigns, and we get to know the community better. They know we're there. We get to pass out information to them. It's a very important interaction. That's one thing that we do through the Community Coalition. Initiative 2C is enhanced tools to encourage and consider feedback from employees and the community. So, police officers, as much as we like to think we know your neighborhoods, we really don't. The people that know your neighborhoods are the people that live in the neighborhoods. You know where the problems are in your neighborhood. You know who's causing troubles in your neighborhood. And quite frankly, there may be some ideas about what we think we should be doing in your neighborhood that maybe you don't agree with. Maybe you think we should be spending our effort and our energy doing other things rather than what we're doing. We need to listen to the people in every neighborhood throughout the city of Champaign and paying attention to their unique issues, their unique solutions. They're some of the people that know the best way to solve these problems. So we need to communicate with them. Well, we need to reach out through social media. We need to get feedback through social media. We're also looking at how we can do a community survey. How do we survey aspects of all of our communities so we can get good ideas, good feedback, so that we can make sure that we're using our resources the way you want us to use them. Initiative 2D, increase transparency in decision-making through timely and effective communication. Two things I want to mention in this section. One is our use of force review board. So many years ago, we started a serious use of force team where when an officer would use a handgun or a weapon and someone got seriously hurt, we'd bring in officers from all over the area and we would go over that use of force with a fine-tooth comb. In the last year, actually since fall, we started a use of force review board at our police department. That means every single use of force that we do, we bring in our defensive tactics instructors, our firearms instructors, our professional standards lieutenant, our administrators, our officers, and we look at that use of force and we try to learn everything we can learn about that. Do we have the right equipment? Do we have the right tactics? Did we do the right things? Do we have the right policy and the right oversight? Because we want to make sure that if there's something we could have done better, we want to make sure that we teach officers how to make sure that they don't make that same mistake, or we give them tools to make even better decisions. Another thing we want to do with increasing transparency is there are a lot of reports that we do, and we commit to you that when we create these reports, we want to put them on our website so that when you see our summary of our department activity, that it's there. When you see our summary of school resource activity, school resource officer activity, it's there. When you see all of our use of force, we do an annual use of force report that it's on our website. That our human relations committee report that deals with all our complaints, when we create that report on an annual basis, that it's on our website. And when we look at our Illinois Department of Transportation traffic stop stats, and we do a report on that we put that on our website. Because we want to make sure that when we're creating this data, that you have access to it at your fingertips when you want to. Deputy Chief Gallup.
Next year we're going to cover is employee wellness, training, and development. Initiative 3A, provide necessary training and opportunities for continued professional growth. As Deputy Chief Daniels indicated, we're going to be experiencing a lot of retirements and a lot of change in the next 3 to 5 years. Just in the last 3 years, we've hired 26 officers. If you look at the next 3 to 5, the potential for 31 officers to retire. We're going to have a lot of new employees in the building. And we do a really good job of making sure we hire high quality employees, but we need to make sure that we're providing them ongoing training and continued career development. So that's one of our goals. So when we talk about providing training, we're really talking about preparing our employees for the future. We're talking about succession planning. How we're going to do that is through a career development program, to where we sit down, we talk to our employees about their goals and try to make sure that they get the proper training. If they want to be a sergeant or a field training officer, we need to make sure that we're providing them the proper training. And that's going to be our goal, to make sure that we're preparing our employees for the future. Initiative 3B, provide needed resources for employees to meet department mission and goals. A couple of the ones I'll talk about tonight is increase and improve our IT support for our employees. If you can imagine the technology changes that you've experienced just in your personal life in the last 5 or 10 years with computers, smartphones, all the technology that you've seen improve your personal life or maybe even work. Imagine what it's like to be a police officer. You climb into a squad car these days and you've got a camera, you've got all kinds of radios, you've got a computer. Well, it takes a lot of support to make sure that all that equipment is working. And we need to make sure that we've got the proper staff on the IT side to make sure our computers and our cameras are working. So if we have a car, a squad car that is out in the field and the camera is not functioning, that car is taken off. That's how important the cameras are to us, and that's how important that technology is. So we need to make sure that we have all of our cars out on the street and that the cameras and the computers are working properly. The other area I want to talk about is employee wellness. We really want to make sure that we're providing our employees the proper support they need. And that's important to you because we know that if our employees are struggling with a personal issue or having a problem, that is going to impact them at work. And you know, our employees are human just like everybody else. Sometimes they struggle with maybe it's a divorce or maybe it's bad accident that they dealt with and there were children involved. That has an impact on our employees. They're human beings and they sometimes need to talk to people and seek help for that. So what we just recently implemented is a chaplain program in the department. We brought chaplains into the building and the goal there is for them, for the officers to have a resource, somebody that they can talk to and make sure that if they're having a problem that there's an avenue for them to talk about an issue. So that's something that we really want to make sure that we have that support for our officers. Initiative 3C, foster an environment that encourages open, honest communication. And really what we're talking about with 3C is unconditional respect. I'm going to take a stab at the definition of unconditional respect. Unconditional respect is having honor and regard for one another, regardless of our backgrounds or our differences. It's really the foundation of our guiding principles. Unconditional respect, it speaks to how we view and treat each other as human beings and how we care about you. Now, how this operates for us at the police department, you know, a lot of people think that you have to give respect to get it, and that's not the case with unconditional respect. With unconditional respect, we're going to respect you no matter what you're doing or how you're treating us. Now, that doesn't mean that we're not going to hold people accountable. That doesn't mean that we're not going to arrest people or give citations when they need to be issued. It means that when we do it, we're going to do it in a manner that we're treating you with respect and regard. What it also means is, and this is something that we can all do better. Sometimes our officers are so busy that they're on their 4th or 5th report, and now I'm taking a call from you, and instead of treating you like you're the 5th call tonight, I'm trying to treat you as important as you're my 1st call tonight. So that can be challenging at times, but unconditional respect is very important. So important to us that we have made that the cornerstone for our promotions. That is one of the books and one of the training that we're requiring. Anybody that's taken our sergeant's test or lieutenant's test, we're making them read the book Unleashing the Power of Unconditional Respect. So we're making them live it as well as in their daily duties. The other thing that we're doing is we're making each and every employee in our building attend the unconditional respect training. We think that's so important for us to make sure everybody understands what we're talking about and how to demonstrate that. Another area we're talking about, when we talk about open, honest communication, we need to make sure that we have open channels of communication within our department. What we know is that it's not hard to get our message down to the line employees and to the officers, but it's really important for us to open those lines and have those lines of communication where we can hear from our employees and hear their concerns. As Deputy Chief Daniel said, they might have a really good idea, but we need to listen to them. Initiative 3D, develop incentives to align employees' actions with desired results. What we're talking about here is are the employees doing what we want them to do? And what we've done is we've revised our evaluation process to make sure that they're rewarded for reward our employees for the jobs that we want them to do. And what we're talking about here is we believe that it's just as important for an employee or an officer to go out and build positive relationships with the community. That's just as important to us as being proactive and running a radar somewhere and issuing a citation. So we want to make sure that our employees are doing what's important for our department, and we think a new evaluation process will help us do that. Next area is going to be covered by Deputy Chief Daniels.
You'll be happy to know this is the last building block, and I'll try to get to it quickly so we can get to your questions. Best practices, policy and oversight. Initiative 4A, first initiative, determine appropriate staffing levels so employees can fully serve the community. One thing I want to touch base here on for this initiative is our teleserve process. So we have the opportunity, there's a lot of us that have reports that we may not have evidence that officers have to seize at the scene of the crime. But we may want to give the information to police so that police may be able to help solve our crime. We have the opportunity to improve our teleserve process so that people can just call us over the phone. We can take down the information for the report and be done with it. Then that way you don't have to have an officer dispatched to your house. You don't have to sit there with a squad car in front of your house. We can get the information we need from you, generate a report, and be done with it, and then you don't have to worry about it after that. And even better, we like to use volunteers to do that. We think there are a lot of people that would like to help our department by doing that, taking these kind of reports, and we can train them the appropriate way. Initiative 4B, streamline administrative processes to free employees to engage in proactive activities. And all the things I'm going to talk about here basically center on the police report. So, kind of along the same line as teleserve, there are a lot of people that are used to going online, filling out information, hit submit, and they're done. Well, with certain kind of reports, we could take information that way, have them submit the information, generate a case number, they get it back through email, and we communicate that way. And once again, we get that information submitted, we get the report generated and the case number back, and no one has to have an officer show up. We save the officers time so that the officer's out there looking for people who are committing gun crimes. Excuse me. When Chief Cobb first got here, he noticed that we generated a lot of paper. We signed a lot of paper. We killed a lot of trees every day, and we forward that paper on. It get signed off by a supervisor. It'd be forwarded to the state attorney's office. And he said, you know what? Technology exists now. We ought to be going paperless. We ought to go green. We ought to save our trees, make sure that all that's being generated digitally, forwarded to the supervisor, signed off digitally, sent to the state attorney's office, appropriately dealt with digitally. And this way we also have a tracking mechanism to keep track of our reports. Make sure that everything's getting where it needs to be. That kind of goes along with improving our case management system. We have about 70,000 calls for service in the city of Champaign. 10,000 roughly police reports that are generated every year. About 1,700, 2,000 serious crimes that we're looking at. But when you give a police report to the city of Champaign, you should feel very confident that everything's being done in the right way for that. We need to make sure that nothing falls through the cracks. We need to make sure that case management system is rock solid so that when you give a report to us, that you know it's being dealt with appropriately. That kind of goes along with what Deputy Chief Gallo mentioned. Next thing I want to talk about is our records management system. For the first time ever, we have all the major agencies on the same records management system. Rantoul, Urbana, U of I, County, Champaign, campus, they have a lot of cameras up already on campus. And we've already used those cameras to sometimes solve crimes. When you look worldwide, you can see these cameras on the street, they actually give officers information to act on to solve crime and sometimes stop crime. Well, the City of Champaign and the University of Illinois are in discussions on how we can increase those number of cameras along the Green Street corridor to keep the people that are moving around in that area safe. Obviously, cameras are expensive, and you got to put them in areas that are going to do good, where there's enough people moving through to where you can keep them safe and they're economically feasible, and that's one area that we're looking to start with. Remember I told you that we were talking about a new records management system? Well, that goes along with that, we're replacing our in-car mobile data computers here very soon. There's about 40 of them, and they're locked into our cars right now, and our officers have to sit sideways to write the reports. They're kind of uncomfortable, and they're stuck there. But we think that we might be able to get officers tablets that they can take out of the cars, have access to all this technology right there when they step out of the car, and that can give them better information and keep them safer and help us make better decisions when we are out on the street. That means that they could take out their tablet, walk to a park bench, set it down, do their report while they're watching some kids play basketball. Rather than be stuck in that car, what do we need to do to get them out of that car so they get to know the citizens better and have access to the technology that exists out there to help them make better decisions. Another thing that we're looking at doing right now is replacing our in-car cameras. So we are already going to replace our in-car cameras. They've run out their useful life, and we have money set aside to do that. But at the same time, we're looking at body cameras. So our department has already started a very extensive study on body cameras. We're already testing them out on the street right now. But there are some real serious challenges that we must overcome to deploy body cameras. And one is the back-end work that has to be done. So remember, we got these 40 cars, and they have in-car cameras, and they're generating all the video from the traffic stops. And what happens when you have that video, then the state's attorney's office says, well, I need this video every time we prosecute a case. So then we have to take officers, and we have to have them sit down and burn copies of video for these cases. And we're finding it takes about 2 full-time people to keep up with burning all this video just for the state's attorney's office. Now picture putting a camera now on 90 patrol officers so that now they're generating video every time they step out of the squad car. Can you imagine the amount of video that is generated? Well, we need to overcome this problem. There are police departments across the country that have bought body cameras only to find out, wow, we don't have the back-end support to do this, and they're taking these body cameras off and they're shelving them. We don't want to do that. We go down the road of body cameras, we're going to make sure that we have the technology to deal with this. So, we have Chief Gallo, Chief Cobb went to the International Association of Chiefs of Police, and they were exposed to a company called MediaSolve. And MediaSolve helps archive digital video, retrieve digital video, deliver digital video. Not just digital video, digital pictures, digital police reports, so that if everything's digitally archived, then that means you can give the state's attorney's office access to that video. Now you don't have to have officers copying it all. So if we have the ability to archive it appropriately so people can retrieve it appropriately, now body cameras become more of a potential reality that's out there. So I want you to know we are taking it seriously, and we are looking at all this technology, because in the next 2 years, all of these major technologies are being replaced at our department, and we want to make sure that they seamlessly work together so that when we spend this big money, that we're doing it in a way to where our officers have the best tools available to them to solve crime. Last thing I want to talk to you about is just exploring and discussing the implementation of tasers for community safety. Chief Cobb, Deputy Chief Gallo, and myself believe that officers should be allowed to use tasers when appropriate for community safety and officer safety. Bottom line is, unfortunately, there are times that officers are in a situation where they may potentially have to use force. There is outside research that shows that up to 70% of officer injuries and over 40% of suspect injuries can be reduced if officers have tasers. We believe that we've implemented certain initiatives in the last 2 years that put us in a situation now where tasers are the appropriate thing to give to our officers. Chief Cobb will now talk about our next steps.
Next steps. Next steps are from here is we got 2 more dialogues left. The next dialogue is going to take place on May 14th at the Champaign Public Library, 6:30. And the last dialogue that we'll have will take place at Garden Hill School on May 20th at 6:30 as well. So once we finish having all these dialogues within the community, all the feedback, the questions, the information, the comments that we get, we're going to put it together. And we're going to put it in a report, and we're going to take it to our city council. On June 23rd is when we're looking to have a study session to talk about the strategic plan and the future of the Champaign Police Department, where we think we're going. And we're going to talk with the public again and our elected officials about it and lay it out. So that's the next plan, the next steps from this point forward. At this time, that concludes the presentation. I'll turn it over to Tracy, open it up for some questions. Myself and Deb Cheese around, and we're ready to hear back from you.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thanks for bearing through the heat and the warmth. We know that adds some difficulty to sitting through a good presentation, right? But it's kind of technical,
Yeah.
and some of those kind of things. So the first question, what I'd like to do is get your feedback on the strategic plan. If anyone has questions or thoughts or comments about the strategic plan first, before we get to your burning individual questions that I know that you have. Anyone have any thoughts? You like it, you don't like it, too technical, not enough information? Yes, sir.
This is what I think is great. I think I feel the police want to go in the right direction, and they're giving the public a chance to see it, and being proactive. So I really think it's great for the city of Champaign.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. You guys were talking about putting the police reports online and being able to get alerts when something happens in your neighborhood. I think that sounds really fantastic and innovative in the age we live in. Some questions that I did have with that though is, when do those reports go online? Is it in real time? Is it, because I know sometimes we get media releases like days after something's happened.
I'll repeat the question. Her question was, when does reports go online? It was nice that we're talking about that. We're going to put all our annual reports online so you can get them, as well as reports for our crime we take that goes into the crimereport.com. How often is that updated? Deputy James?
So what happens is, police report is taken by the officer, and the officer then has to generate the report. Once the report is generated, it goes into records and is copied. And at the time that it goes into records is when they fill in all the missing blanks, and that's when it actually will go into the media report that you see. The data that goes into crimereports.com is data that we would release to the media. So anything that's in crimereports.com is the same information that we give to the media. There's nothing more, nothing less. We give everything to our public that we give to the media. And what happens is every morning, early in the morning, that's uploaded automatically. So about well before some of us wake up, and then it gets kicked into crimereports.com. So it might be a 24-hour, sometimes 40-hour lag by the time it shows up. Just depends on when the report was generated, when it got into records.
Yes, sir.
I have a question about the diversity issue with the police force and the explorers. What are you going to do differently to make sure that those diversity numbers are reflective of the community in both the explorers and the light officers?
So Chief, let me repeat the question. So we do have a mic, but it's not going to stretch all the way around. So I'll try to repeat your question. So his question was about the Explorers program and diversifying the police force, and how we're going to monitor and keep you accountable to that.
Biggest thing is trying to target recruiting. There's a lot of things that we're trying to do around it. Explorer folks, we've been having challenges really trying to get the numbers that we would like to as far as youth. Right now, I think we have 5 active explorers. Out of the 5, we have 1 African American, other 4 are white male. When we started out, as far as the group itself, it was 15 explorers. They have to go through training, go through a probationary period. One thing we tell explorers, it's not easy to do this job. You got to have some commitment. We require them to come to the police department 2 nights a month and spend a couple hours with us learning things, giving back their time, but they're on a probationary period. But if they successfully make it through their probationary period, they'll graduate and they become explorers, we'll issue their uniform, and there are things that they can do and go in details with, so they have to earn that. So we're talking about leadership, we're talking about being able to stick to and see something all the way through. So once we get them through, the ways we're going to recruit, we're in the schools, we're talking with people, trying to partner relationships to continue to expand that number, because we believe these explorers can be future law enforcement officers. There's some other things that we're looking at around community service officers that we talked a little bit about in the strategic plan. Maybe using our explorers, transition to community service officers, which is a civilian level of police officer, into a police officer. Transition, creating some type of a learning program that you see on the university campus and some of the apprenticeship jobs that come through. In addition to that, when it comes to the department itself, we're really working hard doing target recruiting when it comes to getting to places where we think we can get a minority draw. We want to recruit African Americans, Latinos, Asians, females, but really selecting, going after and saying, how can we keep them? And get them in our community, keep them in our community. We want to be as reflective of our community in all areas. So far, we've had some success with this. And the reason why I say that, if you look at the track records over the last 3 years, we're starting to see, we're getting some minorities. Pay attention to our council chambers as we introduce officers. All get sworn in before council. You get to see the individuals as they come through. But those are things we're working through. Word of mouth, input. You all can help us sell our community and recruit our community as well. So all those things are going to come into play as we're working through trying to get diversity within the department.
I saw a hand, another question about the strategic plan. Thoughts on that? Yes, sir.
I want to speak to the Youth Assessment Center. I've tried to utilize the Youth Assessment Center a couple of times, but unfortunately, correct me if I'm wrong, once a kid is in the court system, they cannot utilize those services. This was a year ago that this information was presented. And so I didn't know how often you guys reviewed that process, because I deal with a lot of kids that are coming through our program already in the court system. And the first thing we try to do is think differently as far as deterring them. And so Youth Assessment Center is something that I know is fairly new, but just correct me if I'm wrong on that thought.
Okay, his question was about the Youth Assessment Center that was referenced in the strategic plan. So the Youth Assessment Center, I think, has been in operation for a little more than a year. It's a place that's located on Randolph Street in Champaign. What this is designed to do is be a place for a couple of different purposes. So one, as the police officers talked about, they have a young person who's committed a petty crime, he's a truant at school, got into a minor thing at the mall. We don't want to take that young person to jail. We don't want to just not have them accountable for what the action that they've taken. So we created a place for us to take them that's not a jail place. It's run by a not-for-profit organization. They have a process to bring a young person in, kind of talk to them, learn more about what's happening, what's going on, and then try to help connect them services. And some of it still may be court involved, but so his question was about if a youth has been involved and has a case pending or been involved with the court system already, can they still be served by the assessment center?
Can be served by the assessment center. That's going to be a decision the assessment center is going to make. But from an officer standpoint, if we're dealing with someone who's a juvenile, that's someone under the age of 18. Under the age of 18, the state only laws can change a little bit around that. But under 18, if the officer has contact with them, pretty much the marching orders they're looking at is if the officer, if they have probable cause to make an arrest, whether the young person has committed a crime, if the young person is out in the community, say at the mall, shoplifted, committed a crime, first thing they're going to do is call and say, hey, call the youth detention center. It's this person, you have them in your record. When they call a youth detention center, they're going to do a screening mechanism that they always do. Once they do their screening mechanism, the vast majority of the time, they don't qualify for detention. If they don't qualify for detention, then the next step is to take them to the Youth Assessment Center. So they're going to go there. The Youth Assessment Center is going to do their screening. I would love to say every kid that goes there is going to be proceeded and going to go to the Youth Assessment Center. That's not the case. What happens when they go through the information there at the Youth Assessment Center, they'll speak with our juvenile officers at the department, they'll speak with the state's attorney's office, and they'll look at the package of this young person. So they'll pull all their juvenile contact and look at it. Sometimes they merge them together, combine them together, and the state's attorney's office say, no, I'm going to take this way. Sometimes they split things up. So that's going to be a call that's going to be made at the, with us consulting with the state's attorney's office and the Youth Assessment Center. But initially, part of the physical taking, they should go to the Youth Assessment Center. They should start getting the initial screening and snap, but will the Youth Assessment Center serve them? That's going to be something decided on the back end based on the totality of circumstances around that young person. And each young person is different. If we got a bunch of minor things here, they still may go through it. But if kids that you're talking about in the school that you work at, these are the high-end guys. These are guys doing some significant, serious stuff. Unfortunately, they may not qualify because that's not at the minor level. That's in the major league level.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, he also talked about the use of tasers.
Yes.
With the use of tasers, will the people that you have to use the tasers, will they have experience of how to do it themselves, and so you're going to go into people so they can understand what that thing does to people?
Okay, so her question was about tasers and the use of them, and then our understanding about the impact on them, is that right?
The impact on them, and also will they, the one that is using the tasers, will they have experience to fill it themselves?
Okay. Training nowadays with tasers requires the users to go through it and understand it. Much the same with pepper spray. When officers carry pepper spray, that is a very uncomfortable feeling, and it lasts with you for hours after you've been sprayed. Officers have to experience that as well. We need to know what the effects are, know how people respond, and recognize what the natural response is around tools of these magnitude, yes.
And also, will it be certain officers using that, not the ones that have temperament? I mean, I'm just really.
So who will have a taser, who will be allowed to use them, how will that work, Chief?
If we were to move forward with tasers, it would be a limited deployment, so everyone wouldn't have it.
Okay. I saw a hand there first. Okay, I'll come back to you, sir.
I have a question. You know, I grew up here, and I was in high school, and, you know, I noticed, they made I'm wondering if the police know this, and my second question or thing is, like in the area where I live at, you know, I know are making their rounds. That in our neighborhood, but having contact, we're going to put this on having kind of closer contact and also communicating with these people who's out about not being aggressive to the youth or whomever's out at that late at night. Are they willing to do a foot patrol? I think foot patrol would be a plus.
Okay, so his question is a two-parter. The first one was about marijuana use and the increase in marijuana use, and if the police are aware if there's marijuana is laced with different things or there's more things involved with it. And then the second part of his question was about police doing foot patrol and being more out into the community. Got that right?
I'll take the first part. So drug quality is changing throughout the country, and it depends, it comes and goes depending on what part of the country. We recently saw an area in this town where heroin was becoming more potent, and people that were doing it weren't used to it, and we had several deaths of heroin, and we warned the public when that happened. Well, I read an article where in one state, not this state, but one state, the psychoactive ingredients of the marijuana was increasing substantially in a certain state. So I can't say in Illinois if that's happening, but I can say that other parts of the country are seeing where the marijuana is becoming more potent. Now, whether that makes someone more aggressive, I can't answer that for you.
I've seen it in some friends and some family members who use this on a social level. That their temperament, their behavior is changing very, very quickly. Like they're a manic depressive. We know that drugs or natural drugs can cause certain effects on the. But I see this one myself. You know, have you guys, will you be willing to do like tests on marijuana or random tests?
Recognize that's not our decision to make. We use the Illinois State Police Crime Lab. We send our resources there. When we send our samples there, they do the testing to verify it's weed. That's illegal in the state of Illinois. They're given the information to give it back to the prosecutor's office to verify what it is. Do they go further than that? I can't answer that. That would be something we have to direct that resource. We don't actually control the lab.
I'm going to guess, Chief, and I'm going to guess that because the new medical marijuana laws in Illinois, just like the state I was reading about, I'm certain there will be much more study done in the future on the potency of marijuana. I can almost virtually guarantee that will happen in Illinois, but I haven't seen anything yet so far.
Yeah, but you make an excellent point, something for us to know in the records, talk to public health about, and see if there is a public alert or something we need to be worried about, and if someone looking at it, we'll definitely take that back.
And then foot patrol.
Foot patrol. As far as foot patrols go, direct patrol, yes. We want to get our officers out of the car. We want our officers engaged, interacting with citizens. There's a lot of times, like when we talk about direct patrols is when we've identified a problem, when we identify, we ask officers, hey, spend more time in the area, I've been involved. One of the things that Deputy Chief Gallo talked about is as we looked at our district concept, pushing it down to our sergeant officer level. We believe we get our first line people, the people that are interacting with the citizens, talking with citizens about problems, and find out best solutions, and go and deal with it. We think we'll get a better result. If the officers are not doing and not being responsive to the citizens, then that's where we're going to come as managers. That's where the lieutenants on the ship's going to help us at, and that's where we as the chiefs can deal with those things. But we anticipate our officers will be responsive to citizens. You're going to talk with them in a great, you're going to tell them what some of the issues are. I've heard citizens say, I want to see officers on bikes. I want to see them walking. There's some things that we can do. There's a nice walking trail out here in Douglas Park. There's little baseball games going on out here Monday through Thursday. It's a great opportunity to come and walk, spend some time out here and see what's going on. I was out here last night doing it. If I can do it as chief of police, I know I can make my guys do it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Throughout the United States, many communities have PAF.
PAF? Okay.
And they work with the young people throughout the community. So I'm thinking that part of the reason why we don't have it in this area, no quote, is because the unions won't allow that to happen. So my question is, since the Boys and Girls Club cut off the age 14, and you got this gap of what young people are going to do between the age of 14 and 18, there's a possibility that this youth assessment center, instead of just dealing with problem youth, could come up with some positive ideas to work with this group, age 14 to 18.
Okay, his question was about police athletic leagues that are in other communities. We don't have that here. His other point was around if the assessment center could maybe be the facilitator for some programs and services. Okay. And so we are capturing, Aisha is capturing all the questions and comments. And so we will make sure that we take that back to the Regional Planning Commission who operates the Youth Assessment Center.
Yeah.
Let me just do a real quick. So you've heard the coalition mentioned several times. So the coalition is really something that we've created. I facilitate the group. We meet monthly on the second Wednesdays of the month. Between the last few meetings have been at Champaign Library because the groups have gotten, the meeting attendance have gotten so large. We've been having 40 to 50 plus community members coming out. But this is where we have police, law enforcement, you have the school districts, community agencies, we have a number of members from our faith community, we have a number of social service agencies. We've been coming together to talk about how we improve police-community relations, and then what kind of youth development activities can we have in our community to strengthen creative and constructive things for our young people to do. So I wanted to share that and let you all know that you're invited to those meetings. They are open, and so, but we are capturing everything that you asked about, and we'll be taking it back. Yes, ma'am.
I guess my question is I guess to find out how receptive are the older officers, I know how that works out.
So the question was about officers with a lot of seniority, how are they adapting to new changes?
Obviously, everybody adapts to change differently. The thing that was nice about this plan,
Use mic.
sorry, I'm not allowed to talk there. So the nice thing about this plan is we took everybody's input from the department. So when we got the surveys back, it was ranged from the newest employee to our most senior employee. So this is really our plan. So we took the plan in its entirety to our department, and we got very positive feedback. So the answer is yes, we got good feedback from our department, and I don't think that there'll be folks that aren't willing to do what the chief tells them to do. Right?
And as the second part of her question, she had the second part of her question, which was wellness. Are they using the wellness part of it, this and that? The chaplain program was also a bottom-up initiative. It's something we thought we wanted to put there. We thought we need to give our officers some place where they can talk and say, hey, we want them to get things off their chest. If life happens to them, we don't want them to take life out and make it happen to you. We want them to deal with their issues and any problem may come up so they can provide better service to you. So with that in mind, we took it to our line advisory group, it's a group of employees, and asked them to put the plan together. So they actually picked the chaplains, they put it together, helped us with policy. We oversaw the process and made sure it met the specification we're looking for, but it's been well received. Well received, the employees using it. Chaplains are getting in the cars, they're riding, they're engaging, they're talking, and we're trying to be proactive. One of the reasons why we included retirees and spouses within our conversation is because when life happens to cops, most times the person I live with sees it before I do. And so it's important for that person to know the signs and know what the issues are so that we can catch it before it becomes an issue, because we may be acting out on the street and don't even realize it. And so a lot of times officers, they see a lot of different things and they come back and like I said, we're human too, and life does happen. But we want our people to understand what those issues are, get the help they need, be the good servant that you want them to be.
Yes, sir.
Mine's about tasers. One, I got a son with a heart problem. Yeah, he's real with a heart. He already told me he's so afraid he didn't ever get the tasers. And he ain't about the bag. He always said. But I want to know how the policy is going to be set with the tasers, because I was just watching Chief. And like me, I talk with my hands. You know, some officers think, because I've been told, stop being aggressive. This is how I talk. Chief talk the same way I talk. So, how is this policy going to be set? Is it going to be set, is the person got a weapon, or the standard is he being real aggressive, or he just, like, I'm talking like this, you know? So we got to see how this policy is going to be rolled.
So I think everyone heard him say about tasers, policy for tasers. He has a son who has a heart problem and is concerned about that impact being tased, and so what kind of policies are we going to look at?
Fair concern. I mean, if we were to go that route, we're going to explore policy, we're going to look and see what are best practices out there. The concerns that you have are concerns that other citizens have across the country. Other communities have tasers as well. So those are something we have to consider. Definitely in the notes, it's something we'll definitely be looking at. If we were to move forward with it, when we move forward with it, whatever decided by our, talking to our elected officials about it, that's the opportunity when we'll start to get into policies and look at that and talk about the specifics of it. But trust me, that's something that will not happen in a vacuum. It's something that's going to have to happen open because there's public concern over it. So.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful that the police officers are interacting with our children in school. A lot of these kids know these officers by first name. And I think the council was trying to take that off the table, whether we're going to have security guards. I think it'd be more rewarding to have police there with our children. Have you heard any more about that?
Okay, so the question was about the, what we call the SRO program that's in the schools where police officers are in there. The question is about if that's going away and the schools are going to bring in security guards, or what's happening with SROs in the schools.
Deputy Chief Danny?
Okay, so last year we had what was called a steering committee that Unifor wanted. So me and Lieutenant Ray, we sat down with school board members, teachers, community members, and we looked at the school resource officer program from top to bottom. We looked at our standard operating procedures, we looked at our agreement, we looked at some of the things that we can do to improve the program, and we implemented certain conditions, so we made a very good program even better. We were open to trying to do the best we could, and with the community's help, school district's help, we think we did that. School board at that time voted for our contract to be extended a year. They're going to be voting on it again. I believe in my heart that the school board will vote for the school resource officer program again, but again, that is obviously their prerogative to do that. I also agree with you, sir, that what we have when we have that opportunity, we have the opportunity to develop a real relationship with kids, show genuine concern, and 98% of the interaction that's occurring between school resource officers and the kids in all our middle schools and all our high schools are good, positive, relationship-building things. And we're learning a lot from our kids also, because they're teaching us things that we didn't really know.
Yes, ma'am, in the back.
Back to the youth program that you got going. Do you have a program for after?
So, about the hours on the assessment center, I think on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, it's open to almost midnight, or 11, I think 11. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, it is open until 11 p.m. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
My question is, not just with the SROs. Years ago, there was a program where the officers came to the elementary school and would go into the classrooms and talk with the kids about what they do and their weapons and what the laws are and stuff.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think it needs to be reinstituted.
Okay, so the question was about the officers in elementary schools and their roles with educating and informing young people about police and police work.
I think you're making mention to DARE program. Most DARE programs have went away for a lot of different reasons. But what is in the elementary schools now is wristwatch. And our police officers are wristwatch experts. We have officers that go in the classroom and they actually team teach on a safety area with the classroom teacher, where the teacher actually sets up the training, but it's actually a uniform curriculum, where they have certain blocks they need to go through, and as they're going through, the officer will come in and summarize that block by interacting with students. Gun safety, bike safety, I don't know what other topics. Motor vehicle safety, this and that, but there's several topics that our officers get engaged in. One of the things that we're doing around our wristwatch program is that we're using that as a feeder program. We talk about employee development. We're saying the guys who really want to be involved with young people, if they're willing to go into the classroom, this is our patrol officers, guys who drive the street or ride around in the squad car, they're going to go in there and take part in these presentations. That makes them a candidate for a school resource officer. Seeing if they have an interest and they will move to the next level. Because sometimes guys want to move to the next level because it's better days off, it's better other things, but I may not have a commitment. I want somebody with commitment there. Commitment starts at the wristwatch program.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I wonder about the kids going to school. If you see 5 black young men here and 5 white boys over here standing in a group. Now, we talk about respect between the workers and everything, but also when you approach these groups of kids, do you have the same tone of voice talking to the white as you do the black, or you just go off the bat because you see color and you don't see? To me, you should just see children. Don't
Okay,
see
you
bad.
ready to go to that next level? So her question.
Because you may not respect because you got the same thing down with half of us don't like either. But you give them the same respect that you give the others.
So her question was about the unconditional respect that we talked about in the presentation, and got a group of black kids, a group of white kids, interaction, conversation, treatment.
Yeah, so as I said, unconditional respect is having honor and regard for one another, regardless of our differences or our backgrounds. So it's treating everybody equally and having that same respect, and that is so important. Again, that's the foundation of our guiding principles. So to answer your question, yes, that's going to be our expectation, that we treat everybody the same. Sorry.
Are we doing any specific training around cultural stuff, or what does that look like?
So I'll let Chief touch on this a little bit, but yeah, the unconditional respect, every officer is going to go through this, and we're whittling our way. We just had 2 classes this last month. And then we're also looking at bringing in Dr. Michael Slosh from PTI to do some training on unconscious bias, and that will be happening this summer.
Yeah. There are several dialogues, just like you said. I mean, unconditional respect is something we've been talking about since 2012. All of our command staff has gone through it. All supervisors have already gone through it. So we already off to a healthy start with our leadership. But as Deputy Gallo alluded to, we just finished up 2 couple classes, but I don't know how many classes we had in our area now, probably 10, 12. But we'll continue. Every employee will be required to it. In addition to it, to get promoted. If you want to move up, that is a requirement for promotion. Everyone has that book. There's testing questions that comes out and do the promotional process at both the sergeant and lieutenant level. Unconditional respect is woven in our mission statement. That's something we want our employees striving for daily.
Yes, sir. Well, I know, but we got a lot of hands. You asked the question already. Okay. Yes, sir. Go ahead. I got you. I'm very.
Thank you.
You're on the road to build trust within the community. One piece that wasn't quite clarified, you touched on a little bit, was excessive use of force. And you also, when you talked about that excessive use of force, you're talking about it being an internal investigation. And, you know, you can look throughout the country, and you've been seeing some different type of internal investigations, and really the people, a lot of people do not trust the internal investigation. And, you know, I think the main issue is make sure that the officers are accountable for their actions. So my question is, and I'd like for you to expound upon more of that, the internal investigation, because and how that committee is going, how the makeup of that committee is going to be. So if you can, if you stick with this strategic plan that you have, I think you will gain some trust in the community. But once a situation happens, and you have an internal investigation, and it is internal, and the people don't agree with it, then you're going to lose a lot of their trust. So main question, how are you going to hold police accountable on these times when they have a bad day and then use excessive force?
So use of excessive force, internal accountability can help build trust. And, you know, if it's an internal team, I mean, I hear that a lot in the community. If you have police monitoring and evaluating police, how does the community help build their trust and understanding that process?
Yeah. The big thing we did, and we started taking it pieces, when I first got to the Champaign Police Department, we were dealing with the trust issue, and we'll continue to deal with it because trust is something that you just can't fix it, and it's going to be fixed forever. We have to continue to constantly build it and earn it and continue to stand so you can see it. So one of the first things we dealt with our complaint process. When a citizen complaint come in, within 24 hours it come in the department, it has to come to my desk. I have to see it. Not only does it come to my desk, we send it off to our community relations officer, so he can see it. Managing charge of our human relations partner, he sees Mr. LeGrand. So he'll see it. When we ready to kick off the investigation in it, we spell out what is that the investigation going to look at, and once that happens, the investigation goes. Once the investigation is done, it comes back into the department. It is reviewed by the professional standards lieutenant. It's reviewed at the city building by Mr. LeGrand. And then in addition to it, it eventually comes to me. So the reason I started the complaint process, because that was the first pillar, starting with the trust, building on it. But once we started dealing with that, when we started looking at use of force, we currently had a use of force process in place. And every time an officer uses force, there's a use of force sheet that's filled out by the supervisor, and that goes through the chain of command. And it's reviewed by the sergeant, it's reviewed by the lieutenant who oversees that shift, and it goes up to a deputy chief. And eventually could end up on my desk. We look at it. And so that's the review that's there. With the use of force review, what they do is look at best practices. So we take the trainers within the department, and these other guys are firearms trainer, controlled tactics trainer, verbal judo instructor trainer, you name it, our trainers, the people who are our experts, they review it as well. So we got 3 different levels of review that goes on with every use of force. In addition to that, one thing that we implemented is at the onset of use of force, a supervisor must go to the scene and start an investigation immediately. We didn't have that in place before. And that's a huge step because once force is used, we want that supervisor there starting the paperwork, starting the chain, and landing out. The biggest thing is how we message that to you, how we're going to be transparent. And that's part of the reason why we said the use of force reports that we put out there, when we do an annual review, we lay it out. As issues come up, trust me, this is not a bashful community. If there's an issue, the community raises it. We hear it, and we need to be responsive to it. Whether I hear from Mr. Parsons, whether I hear from Ms. Avery, or anyone else, if you come to any one of your elected officials, come to me, come to one of the deputy chiefs, we're going to be transparent. We are obligated to look at it, and we owe you answers. That's one thing we'll always give you. You ask the question, we'll get you the answer.
So, Lionel, if you don't mind, put you in spot. Would you mind standing? So, Lionel LeGrand is the director, or he runs the community relations office. He's relatively new to the community within a couple of months. So, when you talk about complaints and monitoring, that's what his office does for the city. I know that we have our city manager here. Dorothy, you should stand up so they see you, know that you're in the house. We have our new mayor, Deb Finan is in the audience, and we have the chair of the county board, Patrick Petrie's in the back. So we have a lot of community leadership here listening and hearing you. So I wanted you to know who was in the room as well. And
finish the introduction, then we have our deputy city manager, John Walsh, here as well. Councilman, we had Councilman Kyles around here early as well. I think you left, and I apologize. I purposely don't introduce our elected officials to the end because I don't like to make people nervous or anything. I want people to be free about it, but I always want to let you know who's in the room. So I always wait to the end.
Okay, Lionel, they didn't get to see you in the front, so if you can stand one more time, please. And Captain Jackson is here from Neighborhood Services. So, I didn't see him sitting back there anymore. Marlon, you want to go?
Yeah, throughout the presentation from we've heard the term best practice. So I guess what my question is, who determines what the best practices are, and that person that has more of the people that determine best practices, what kind of qualifications that they have to make those decisions. And then also, second part of that is the training.
And the first part of your question around best practices.
Right.
Best practice in the police industry is similar to a lot of industry. Best practice is determined by the industry to some degree, but it also takes into account community input. We have to hear from our citizens that we're looking at, because there's some things that you will not be tolerated in this community that they may do in the city of Chicago, or they may do in Decatur. But when you look at best practices, the Department of Justice weigh in on that and lay out how some things should be done. Our laws deal with some of those things as well, as far as how officers enforce the law, as far as things that we can and can't do. Policy and procedure plays into those roles as well. So we're always looking at what's happening across the country and looking at the best practices. That's how they weigh in it. But as far as the training aspect, there are a lot of opportunities, and we can create more for citizens to get engaged in learning more about what we do. One, we have Citizen Police Academy. Those who haven't heard of it, is a program that's offered on Thursday nights. They're actually in session right now, but it's a 10-week program where you can go through at the Police Training Institute, and they'll show you and lay out exactly what police training is about and how things function, and you'll actually get to be in the experience. Police 101 is a program that we had going at one point in time, and I can tell you right now, our Neighborhood Service Department is going to kick off a program that's going to incorporate us to be similar to our Police 101 that we're partnering with. Help me out, Kevin. What's the name of the program you're coming in with?
Champaign City Government 101.
Champaign City Government 101, where there'll be a night from the police department, where we're going to have the curriculum, you're going to come in, and we're going to talk. So there's one opportunity you can come through, we can show up and lay some things out. We have summer youth summer youth juvenile program. Help me out with the name of it. SRO's run. Youth Police Academy, as well as Advanced Youth Police Academy, where we take young people through it. We have a crime scene police academy that we take young people through as well. So there's a lot of different opportunities that we try to make ourselves available when we do that. When we do our annual open house, we've done it for the last couple of years, and we'll do it again in 2016. But when we have these programs, we actually try to do a demonstration, showing the tactics that we're going to use. And the reason why we try to show the tactics, because we want to spark a dialogue. We want people to see what a flashbang looks like, what the SWAT team looks like when they go in, and why they stack their way. And let's talk about it and understand and explain why we're doing it. What does a traffic stop look like? What are the capabilities of the K-9 officer and the K-9 partner there? Those demonstrations we've done to have dialogue, having conversation with our public, so you see what the resources we have and how they're deployed, when they're deployed. So a lot of that is conversation like this, having that opportunity. Something I'd love to see to the future. There's a lot of conversations going on about what's happening in the country. Around the country, you think about Baltimore, when you think about what happened in New York or Ferguson. Community Coalition have a lot of dialogue around that. One of the sessions we did is, after Ferguson happened, is what if something like that happened here in the Champaign Police Department or within Champaign County, what would our response be? So we brought the Serious Use of Force team in. They came in to talk about how they would do an investigation if they came into our community. And coalition is another good way. We're talking that stuff as well.
Do you think I can answer that question now?
Linda, you've got to ask the question, and there's a bunch of hands up.
Okay,
I'm trying to make sure everybody
you want me to wait? I can wait.
Ask your question.
Okay,
Ask your question.
it's over now, but I wanted to ask about when you had police in the school, how many kids got felonies behind that? And then also, did any of those kids go to the youth assessment center?
Okay, so the question is about kids or the youth and the SRO officers in the school and engagement. And did that increase, or did they get felonies because of the police involvement? And then did the assessment center play a role in any of those kind of cases?
Assessment Center just been around for about a year, and pretty much the rule of thumb that we use with the Assessment Center for the school resource officer. One, if a student commits a violation in the school, and if there's a violation significant enough where they will be arrested and they score out, and the youth detention center not only will accept them, but they are going to detain them, hold them in there, they're going to be incarcerated. If it meets that level, they're going to jail. I'm sorry. But most of the time, if they may score out, but they're not going to keep them in jail. If they're not going to keep them in jail, then the next criteria that school resource officer look at is, what is the school going to do with them? Are they willing to keep this student in the building? If the school is willing to keep the student in the building, then we won't take them to the youth assessment center. We'll make a referral. But 9 times out of 10, if it was significant enough where they scored out, they can go to youth detention center, but they're not going to detain them there, more likely the school's going to kick them out. They're going to suspend them. And if they're going to get suspended, then we will take them to the youth assessment center. We want to put them in contact with someone when they're in crisis, when the incident occurs, in hopes to get them help, and hopes to provide service to them so that we won't have this issue again in the future. But that's the criteria. But if the school, in any case we're dealing with a young person, if the school is willing to keep the student in school suspension, some type of alternative setting, this and that, we're not taking the kid out of school. We're going to make the referral. That is the marching orders that our school resource officers have.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to commend the police department for the excellent work that you're doing, informing the public as well as the technology that you use. But what nobody's talking about is the escalating violence in our community. We just had a young lady who left because it's getting dark, and she was afraid to be out at night time. So I would like to hear you kind of address that issue.
Yeah, well, it's a real issue on us right now. We are in crisis as a community. We need to be honest about that. And so we've got a significant issue with the level of violence amongst youth and adults. And so, Chief.
Yeah, when it comes to gun violence, everyone is concerned. It's the talk of the town. We're increasing patrols. We've identified areas where the shots are occurring at and trying to put as many resources in to keep them there. I wish I had a crystal ball and I could predict where the next one's going to occur at and get officers there before it happens, but unfortunately, the world doesn't work that way. It doesn't have that. But the thing that I'm asking citizens to do is, we need your help. We need you to partner with us, and we need you to come forward and put information out there. Since June of 2014, we've had 8 homicides. And the vast majority of them have witnesses. And witnesses haven't fully come forward. Some have completely refused to come forward for various reasons. That's a problem. But I can tell you right now, as a group here of this neighborhood, this is your neighborhood. We need to own our neighborhood, and we need to take care of our neighborhood. We're here as a tool to help you. We're here as a tool. We're willing to be here as long as you need us to be here, but we need your help. And so that's what we're asking for, and we'll continue to ask for, because we want to hold these individuals accountable. I know a lot of times it's difficult to see your loved one go to jail, especially if you know someone out there. But I think I've said publicly once, and I'll say it again. If you know someone's involved in the gun violence, tell them to put their guns down. Right. Maybe they need to go on a vacation. Amen. Go visit grandma, uncle, whoever this and that. Tell them to put it down and go. Yes, I would love to hold them accountable, but at the same token, if they're not a target and they can't shoot or no one can shoot at them, then we decrease that opportunity.